Welcome to the Disrupt Your Career podcast, brought to you by Claire Harbour
and Antoine Tirard. We're passionate about helping everyone find fulfillment in their work life.
We believe that big, messy, uncharted career changes are inevitable, and it's up to you to decide.
Will you take control and disrupt, or allow yourself to be disrupted?
We wrote the book about it, and now we share here our conversations with other thinkers in this crucial area.
Settle down and get ready to listen to this dose of wisdom.
So, in this episode of the Disrupt Your Career podcast, I'm delighted to welcome Pauline Kiraithe. She's a highly respected HR leader, an ICF PCC coach, and the founder of Talentgurus, with nearly 3 decades of experience shaping people strategy across some of East Africa's most dynamic organizations. She brings a powerful blend of grounded HR experience and human-centered coaching to her work with leaders and teams. Pauline, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you very much, Claire, for this opportunity.
Good. So, with all those decades in HR across sectors and now leading your own firm, what has been the guiding thread through your career, would you say?
Curiosity and the need to want to learn, constantly learn and grow myself. As I grow myself, also to grow others. So as I keep learning, I also like to share and also impact people around me. So that's one key thing that I've seen. I think for me, the other thing for me is just to see people's lives changed. I'm very passionate about people getting to know themselves and getting to know what they carry so that they can live intentionally. I'm really excited when I see people actually saying, "Oh, thank you very much. I've gotten clarity about why I'm here." Impact for me is very important. Yeah, just being intentional with life and being impactful where we are. There has to be a challenge. So if there's no challenge, then I get bored.
Getting bored easily is a great quality. I've always believed. Definitely. Fantastic. That's beautiful, Pauline. Thank you. So, many years in a more corporate setting, but tell me about your shift into entrepreneurship. Was it intentional, or did it emerge from a particular moment of necessity or clarity?
Around when I was getting into my 30s, I'd almost worked for 10 years. And so I'd already got into the rigors of working. So it was, you go to work, you get paid, repeat. And I kept on wondering, okay, so are we going to repeat this until we die? And I wondered, I think there's more to life than just working. For me, that's where the need for greater purpose started, my early 30s. And so I went onto a journey of understanding myself and understanding life. Here in Kenya, that's when coaching had just started. And they say in life, when you are experiencing a crisis, that's the best time that God has a way of revealing aspects of you that you don't know. So at that point, I was going through a personal crisis. And so what I did is I went into life coaching to find myself. But in the process of finding myself, I discovered I got other deductions about life through the people I was interacting with. That's where my journey of understanding myself and purpose started. During that period, I did some self-work, healing myself through that crisis. But through that, I got to understand where my strengths lie, who I am, went on to a journey of understanding purpose, and then got to realize that actually we are made for more. I got clarity around my purpose, but for me, I felt I needed to prepare myself. So I took myself through trainings, through exposures that would prepare me eventually for when I get into purpose. Between my 30 to 40, that was the time also I felt also I needed to get to the peak of my career, because I also felt I needed to also be able to speak with authority when I get out. And so I pursued to get into the top of my career, and which I did. I managed at 37. And then by then, when I was getting out to my peak career, which was HR director, at that point, I realized actually, I've been doing this work for a while. So it wasn't even a new challenge. It is time for you to move. And then coupled with that, I was expecting my daughter And so actually that was the greater kick for me, because I realized now I need to be able to be present with her.
Beautiful. That's lovely. I love that expression, I was made for more. That's one that all of us could do with adopting at different stages and possibly all the time. Thank you. So when you think about your own particular leadership style, whether leadership in the sense of sitting in a role that is defined as important with many people around and beneath you, or whether you just think of yourself as a human who is leading others, what would you say has most influenced your leadership style, and why is that?
What first model that I had on leadership was actually Nelson Mandela. So I admired the way he led, and I admired how he was able to serve a prison sentence for 27 years and come out and forgive. So for me, that really just boggled my mind. So I went to a journey to just study him and learn about his leadership style. And I just realized that he's so humane in terms of how he handled people. I think for me, that was my introduction to leadership and what humane leadership looks like. But I think the other second person that really modeled for me what real good leadership looks like is also John Maxwell, who now has written, I think, over 91 books on leadership. But for me, he also modeled what leadership looks like. What I loved about him is because he even models a lot of his teachings from the Bible. Also, Jesus is also a great leader. So I had distant role models initially, people I hadn't met. Later on, and I got to see practically in the workspace. So I remember my first boss, Mr. Kiraithe. He was very intentional about how he led us, always constantly teaching us what he knows, nurturing and modeling what he expected of us. The professional that I am, he actually modeled and also mentored us into it, demanding excellence, in people, looking for people's strengths and working with people's strengths. So that was my first boss. And then I got a mentor now after that, who was also a man. So interestingly enough, most of them have been men. And he started out as my mentor, who I didn't know, but I just requested. I told him I'd want him to mentor me, and he was more than happy to mentor me. He actually exemplified what HR, a professional HR, would look like. So for me, he gave me the picture of success. I saw who I'd want to be as a leader in HR. And so he mentored me, and to date, we are still very good friends 35 years later. So there's a point where I even worked with him, and he was able to work with me at Jesse if I am learning how to lead from the heart. And I remember him giving me tests to just test how humane I'm becoming my leadership style. That is where now I can say I totally was able to inculcate what humane leadership is all about.
You've chosen some extremely inspiring role models, that's for sure. And I love hearing about the boldness that you had. When did you first realize that you were becoming a mentor to others?
Now in the workspace, people just tended to gravitate towards me. People would still come to me with normal challenges, their personal challenges. Where they have a crisis, they'd still come to me. So other than me being their HR manager or their HR director, I became more of their coach, their counselor. So that's when I realized actually I am modeling a certain behavior that other people would want to be like me.
Wonderful. So I'm thinking, as you went through that change in terms of evolving the role you played as an HR professional and becoming more of the mentor and coach, and also you went through this very deliberate, intentional change over that 10-year span or so in becoming the coach and advisor that you wanted to become. As you think through that change, what surprised you about the Pauline that emerged on the other side of the change?
During that 10 years of finding myself, of becoming who I truly am, so it also was coupled with some career changes. I was mid-career at that point. So I'd started out in the NGO world, moved to telco, when telco was starting out here in Kenya. So we were there. Then I moved to retail before I moved to media. Now, during those shifts, I think the thing that surprised me the most was realizing that the gift that I had was not by virtue of the organizations that I worked in. Is when I realized that the gift is in me. And I carry the gift of influencing people. So that was the aha moment for me. It actually gave me confidence for where I was going. Because for the longest time, I always thought I've worked in good organizations. Maybe it's the environment that is good. But because I took the chance to move from one organization to the other, to change sectors, that is when I got that crystal clear understanding. And I think it was God's confirmation telling me, you know what? That's your gift. Take it and run with it here. So that was one of my greatest learnings. And for me, that's something I carry dear to my heart. When I'm starting out new projects and I'm feeling scared, it reminds me that, hey, Pauline, the gift is in you. It's not in the environment.
Inside, in the interior. That's a beautiful revelation, and one that you certainly can carry with you for life. So let's think. Here we have Pauline, very enlightened, very clear about who she is, what she's doing, why she's doing it. Let's cast our mind towards those starting out in their careers today. If you were to have one mindset to adopt and one mindset to drop that you would want to pass on to early career professionals, what would those be?
So for early career professionals, I would tell them the first thing is just stay curious, stay hungry. And irrespective of where you are, just seek at it. Just do it to the best of your ability. Now, when I look back, it's those small little things that I used to think were inconsequential at that time. Now, when I look back, there have been key skills or key reflections that have given me confidence in later years, more challenging situations. You understand?
Yeah.
So every experience is very important, and no experience is wasted, because with each experience, there's a learning to it. And don't rush the process. Don't rush the process, because every stage you are in, it will compound. It will eventually have a long-term benefit for you. When I started out in my career, when I was just a fresh graduate, so in the NGO that I worked in initially for 6 years, by the time I was finishing university, because I had worked part-time for that organization, so by the time I was finishing, I was managing a department. So I remember heads of departments were given cost centers to manage. And me, my responsibility was to take care of consumables in the office. And I remember my boss telling me to keep track of tissue consumption, sugar consumption in the office. And I remember looking at him and thinking, you think I went to university to come and count tissue? Yeah. But interestingly enough, what it taught was how to manage things to the minute detail. What you don't count, you can't manage. So for me, that's what it taught me. Later on in my career, I go to normal retail, and it was a turnaround organization that needed turning around. And the same principle of you have to track what you're using, so that you can be able to manage it. Imagine I used that same principle for this other organization. And I remember I was in a cost-cutting committee that actually managed now to save the organization about 100 million shillings. So you see, from that minute little skill that I thought was inconsequential, it became a very key skill much later. So I'll tell the young people, enjoy the process. As menial as the process looks like, at this point, it is going to have great meaning in the future. A mindset that I would like them to drop, thinking that maybe the world owes you something. Guess what? It doesn't. So the earlier that you are able to be humble, to learn from every experience, the faster you'll be able to actually go up that career ladder. Expecting people to tiptoe around you or even change rules around you, it won't happen.
Thank you. Let's hope that those listening hear that loud and clear. Thinking about organizations, you've been head of HR, and of course, CEOs should be thinking about what they need to do with regard to talent. It's a strategic thing, that's for sure. But what would you like to see organizations change in order to be better nurturing underrepresented or emerging talent?
Definitely, we have underrepresented talent. And I think women have been underrepresented for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Especially at leadership level. It might not be anything as a result of the organization not having done something. It's that I think the challenge starts out way much earlier through nurturing, through how women have been brought up, and even how we see ourselves. So it's women as well as also people who are differently abled. But I think there's a responsibility for organizations to now realize that this is an area that organizations might need to also cater for. But I'll focus on women because that's the area that I'm also looking at. And so for me, I would say that organizations will need to consciously have policies to be able to bring in more people from the disadvantaged groups so that they can be able to come and contribute on the leadership table. Because I truly believe that there's always a different angle that will be brought in. The other thing is also, if I look at women are very hard workers. Women are creative thinkers. So there's a different value that they'll bring onto the leadership table. So if you are not consciously including them, then you see there's a whole aspect that you're missing out on. Because if you look at the purchasing power, and especially who even decides what is bought in a household, it's actually held by women. So you imagine you're making decisions about products where women are not giving you an input. So it means you're coming out with products that might actually not be fitting for the majority of the population, the buying population. So that's why I would say put in policies where they can have a quota system to ensure that qualified women, not just bringing in women for the sake of bringing them in, but where qualified women are actually promoted and brought in into leadership. But the other thing is also to come in with mentorship programs that can help women also overcome imposter syndrome. So there's a program I developed last year called She Soars that we're helping women now overcome imposter syndrome, because I believe that women are qualified. It's not that they're not qualified, that's why they are lacking in those leadership roles. I feel that there's a great fear that they have. Those are initiatives that organizations need to put in place to help more and more women now start seeing themselves as true leaders so that they can step into those positions. And also now, for me, I've also realized that, yes, you cannot impact until you're able to sit on those leadership tables, because that's where policy is done. I truly am on a journey to help more and more women to also see themselves as those leaders to be able to sit at those tables.
Fantastic. And obviously, you've authored many career programs, coached thousands of people. You're doing the work to ensure this happens. When you reflect on all you've done and all you continue to do in your work, what message or legacy do you hope endures?
So for me, I think the legacy is that she came and she lived and did her best. But for me, I think it's more of every time we encountered her, that she was a catalyst, that she shifted our mindsets, challenged us to become better versions of who we are. She lived her life and she was able to influence us. That's the legacy for me.
Mindset shift, being catalyzed by Pauline. Fantastic. What's currently keeping your curiosity burning, and what's next for you?
Okay, so I'm just about to launch a new book on purpose. We've just finalized it actually yesterday.
Beautiful.
So for me, I think purpose has become a key question that I'm getting now more and more from my coaches, because I think more and more people want to live more intentional lives.
For sure.
And especially the Gen Zs, they are even more discerning. For them, work has to have great meaning. I've gotten a lot of questions around purpose and how did you get to know your purpose. So the book that I'm going to be soon launching will be around my own purpose journey, just to show the intentionality that's required before you get that clarity around your own purpose. Because I also want to demystify that you just don't wake up and you find that you're doing it. But also for me, the other thing is women, which I've talked about, to now coach and also develop more and more women into leadership. And for me, not through the general leadership programs. No, for me, I want to develop them from an inside out kind of process where until you see yourself as that leader, then you become that leader. It's going to be an in-depth self-discovery journey for each of the ladies who pass through my hands so that they become and they are well convicted about their leadership journey going forward.
Well, they're enormous subjects and very noble subjects. So I wish you well with them and strength and fortitude and tenacity, because it is that inner work that will make the difference to the individuals, no doubt of that. But there's a whole society to be pushing against in order to free them to do whatever they can beyond the learning. Fantastic, Pauline. This has been a fascinating conversation. It's been most enjoyable, and I'm very grateful to you for having sat down and joined me today. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome. Thank you very much, Claire. And it was fun doing this with you.
Definitely.
We hope you enjoyed hearing from this month's guest as much as we did.
Do go and check out our work on disrupt-your-career.com and come back soon. Thank you.